No! You can't just tilt and ruin my high score?
Haha. Pinball. Machine. Go. Brr. Pinball sucks XD.
Nobody trusts anyone. Or why did they put tilt on a pinball machine? By Steve McQueen. Pinball has been a game that I've been playing ever since I was little. What I have come to the conclusion just recently is that pinball is one of the few games out there that is so great for wasting time on. Time goes by so fast when you're playing pinball, and it's super addicting. So for today, we're going to be reviewing a pinball game on Steam, which I never thought I would ever say that. But today we are reviewing Pinball Wicked. And Pinball Wicked, it's a virtual pinball simulation game, which is decorated in a pirate theme with several unique game modes within its current state. It was released in 2017 and still resides in early access. Unfortunately, this game hasn't really received much love in terms of receiving content updates, but hopefully with more people playing and buying this early access game, more content will be released with this game, and of course, this is a game that if updated can be a must-grab game for any kind of gamer really in all ages. Now that we've talked about the overview of Pinball Wicked, we're now going to be moving into some basic components about the game. Things such as like graphics, animations, visuals, and audio, and then shortly after we're going to be moving into what's really important, the gameplay. In terms of graphics and visuals, this game really makes them look really nice looking and fit the game extremely well. The background stuff is really well done without it being completely distracting when you're playing your game. It's well polished, and of course it's an excellent table design, so everything visually looks really well. And that leads me to the animation side of things. So the animations are great and unique. It truly feels like you're actually playing pinball, but just virtually. But in terms of the animations, when it comes to the unique games like the pirates coming out, or you're trying to take out that skeleton pirate, it's really well done. Especially the ships in the background. They're really beautiful looking, but it's not that distracting when you're playing this game. So those side of things are extremely well done, and there are different camera angles and shots that are extremely cool and provide different perspectives throughout the table and can really change how you play the game. And you can adjust to what you're comfortable with, which I really like that side of the game. That leads me to the audio side of things. So in terms of audio, the audio is good in terms of great music and speech. At times the music can overlap, but I can easily overlook that, and I think you can as well. And of course, I used the controller for this game. It didn't really have any lag whatsoever. The same is said for keyboards, so it's really good that this early access game has those basic components of the game honed down to the T. So now that we've talked about the basic parts of the game, we're now going to be talking about the gameplay. How the game is played, how does it feel like, because that's what really you're here for, to see if it's worth playing. So we're going to be getting into all the components that I think are worth mentioning. Now this first point I wanted to mention, I kind of talked about it a little bit during the basic information part of the video, but this game, in terms of realism, you really don't have to worry about it because it truly feels like you're playing a real pinball game. Everything comes and works so well that you feel like you're actually playing a real pinball game just virtually. Of course, it feels real to an extent, but we'll be getting into that a little later in the video. But of course, I also wanted to mention there are two types of game mode. There's pure style and action style. Pure style is just straight up pinball. It's just, there's no games involved, there's no crazy animation, it's just straight pinball, your balls bouncing around the table. Action style is that there's actual mini game modes where you're playing the pinball. Like I mentioned before, you're trying to find chests to get more loot, or which increase your score in the game, and then you have to fight a skeleton pirate in order to obtain more loot, or then there's this mutiny thing where a pirate crew comes to take your loot, which is really cool. So that's what action style is all about, and pure style is, and they're both really fun. Those battles that I just mentioned are really well done. They're extremely cool. with pirates and skeletons like I mentioned before. And now, in terms of the physics of the game, the physics are okay, I would say, sometimes. I will explain this a little later, but the physics for what they are good, but it can definitely be improved upon. Another thing I wanted to mention is that there is tilt in this game, which if you're an avid pinball player or have played pinball in real life, I'm sure you've seen tilt. Now, tilt is only supposed to happen when you're moving the machine when you're playing the game a lot in game. It can also happen when you press the two, I forget what they're called, the slider things at once or too much at one time. But tilt is in this game, which is extremely annoying, but to me that's what makes it feel like a real game, which is great. And I would say overall the gameplay works well for newbies in terms of people who've never played pinball and want to try it out, and of course experienced players by letting the game flow extremely well. So the gameplay wise, don't really have too many issues with it. So gameplay wise, this game really has the basic components and of course other structures of the game pretty honed in. It could have been improved, like I said, when I'm talking about the physics of the game, the physics of the ball specifically. But now we're going to be getting into things to know. And now this section talks about not necessarily good or bad things about the game, depending on how you see it, of course, but talking more about things I want to let you know that can make your gameplay a lot more smoother, or important things that can be really helpful for when you try this game out yourself. So here are my points that I thought were worth mentioning for you guys going into the game if you do decide to get it. The first point is that there can be up to 4 players per game. Not in the sense of actual online multiplayer, but I mean if there are 4 people playing on the same laptop or computer or any other device, there can be up to 4 players, which is cool because you can play with your friends. If you're in college, this could be a great thing for spending time in between classes, or you have nothing to do at work and your coworker and yourself are bored. That can also be really fun. And then from what I have experienced while playing this game is that it seems easier to play on a controller. I've also tried keyboard, but I just feel like that's a little too hard. Of course you can change your default controls for your keyboard, but I just felt like on a controller it felt a lot more smoother and better to play with it. Another thing I thought it was worth mentioning is that there's only one type of theme, which is this game's called Pinball Wicked, and it revolves around pirate themes, so you're going to see pirate ships and pirates around, but it only has one type of background, so you can't really change it at all. It does have an ambiance settings, but I haven't been able to turn that, so I'm assuming there's only one setting for the background, so that's something that's worth mentioning. Of course, there are different kind of pinballs, which is really cool. I wish there could be even more designs, because the designs they have already are really unique and awesome, which is something hearing me say is that I wish there was something more of throughout this video. But the pinballs, there are different kind of designs. You can pick your favorite one. I personally like the fire-ish, reddish pinball because I think it's really easy to look at. Another point is that camera views, different kind of camera angles, like I said you had before, the ability to do, can make your gameplay look really cool, but it also can make it look somewhat stuttering depending on what kind of angle you choose, which I think is a gameplay wise thing that they could have worked on if they released an update, but that's something that's worth mentioning. You of course can find the camera angle that works for you. I recommend, I think, the 1s to 4s. Those don't really lag too much, so that's my opinion on that. Now, I think that's most of the points and concepts and things I wanted to talk about so you guys can get a smooth and easy gameplay. Now we're going to be moving on to the not so bueno things, the negatives of the game, because of course every game isn't perfect and they can of course improve, so we're going to get into ways on how this game can improve and what it could do better. So one of the first negative that I thought was very obvious going into this game is that there really is a lack of content for this game. This game has so much more potential if they incorporated different components. Another point to note is that this game does has its very own DLC called the Supporter Pack, which I believe it is exactly the same price as the base game. I think if you have the base game already, it will be discounted for you for like 10% or something along those lines. But what that DLC offers, it just offers simple things that I think already could have been included in the base game through updates such as pinball skins, more ambiances, simple things like that. And that's why I really don't think that DLC should be $10, the same price as the base game. It can be a lot less. And the reason why I say that is that many of those things that the DLC includes and comes with could have easily been made through content changes in the base game for free. Imagine this game having just more than the pirate theme, like having a robotic theme, a cowboy theme, space related theme. The value of this game would be drastically improved if it were to have more of those substances for content. The next thing I wanted to mention kind of relates to what I talked about previously about physics, but now we're going to be talking about the pinball physics. How does it work? Well, it's alright to an extent, but the ball does tend to bounce all over the place as it has moon gravity. The slingshots can actually launch the ball all the way over a ramp and just make it look extremely awkward. The physics of the pinball is not too bad, but it's kind of obvious that it can be worked on. Now this next point kind of deals with audio. Some of the sound mixing is extremely confusing. They should have more sounds when the pinball hits different part of the table, because some of it is extremely repetitive, and if it were real life, you already know that it's gonna have a different kind of sound. And the last thing to mention about audio is that the narrator is extremely quiet. Now the next point I did want to mention is that I did talk about how there are different kind of camera angles, but especially the ones that follow the ball around-ish. It doesn't tend to go all around the table, but it follows the ball around to an extent, tend to have a frame rate drop and lag extremely hard, and that can really screw you over in some very crucial moments of the game, which really makes you extremely conscious, and you have to be aware about what camera angle you can use. I think there's 7 different types of angle, technically 14 if you include the ones that follow you around the table, but I would say 1 through 4 work the best because they don't lag too much, but the ones that move around lag. I can't emphasize that enough. And of course, the last piece of info I want to mention is that it's somewhat pricey for what it has to offer. It's $10, which isn't too bad for an early access game compared to other games you look on the Steam market. But for what it has to offer, I feel like $10 is a bit too much. I would definitely get this game if you're into pinball, of course, but for $10 for what it has to offer, I'm not too sure about that. I would maybe wait for a sale. Maybe around the $5 mark would be a better value for money worth game. With saying that, that kind of wraps up most of the points I wanted to make on how this game could improve upon and the not so good things this game has to offer. And I feel like most of these issues can be fixed if there were updates, maybe not on a regular basis, weekly, monthly, that could have been fine too. With more effort from the developers, most of these fixes will probably be gone just like that. So now, saying all those things about the games, I just wanted to give you my ending thoughts about Pinball Wicked and whether you should get it or not. Pinball Wicked has massive potential. If the developers came back and added more content such as backgrounds and themes, this must be a must-get game to play with your friends. I can definitely see myself playing this game in between classes or my break, because it's convenient and fun, just like real life pinball. It is a bit pricey, kinda, for what it has to offer. I would honestly wait for a sale, like I said before. So as the game is right now, I'm gonna have to give it a 5.5. But with more content, it can easily become a top tier game. Of course, everything I've just said throughout this video are my own opinions. You don't have to agree with them, they're just things that I like or dislike about the game. But that kind of brings us to the end of the video, because that's more or less everything I've had to say. Thank you guys for watching this review, it really means a lot. Of course, I'm going to link all the links down in the description below in terms of the Steam link store page and all that good stuff. Of course, if you guys want to join our Discord or follow our meme page on Instagram, that would also be greatly appreciated. But of course, I hope you guys enjoyed this review like I just said, and I will definitely see you in the next review. Let me know if you guys do get this game and what you guys think about the game in the comments below. But with that being said, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next review. Hope you have a great day, and bye.